Hey guys, what is up? Kid here of Burn One with the Shadowverse Evolve channel, bringing you another deck profile, this time on a Swordcraft deck, obviously all around Leonidas and playing him. This has been a really powerful list for me. I've been having a lot of fun playing this at locals as well as against friends, so I figured I'd show off this list a little bit and we'll just get right into it. Alright, so here is the list itself. First things first, obviously, we have the 3 of Bellringer Angel. If you've been playing recently, you know that the meta is pretty aggressive, so Bellringer Angel is a very good way for us to slow down the offense of our opponents, as well as creating a little bit more consistency in our list, because we do get a draw off of this. We play a 1 of the Evo, because honestly, Bellringer Evo on 2 is a pretty solid play if we're going to try to control the board a little bit early on against Abyss like aggro and stuff like that. If they play Mini Soul Devil on 2, our turn 2 response would be just straight up Bellringer Angel Evo, kill the Mini Soul Devil because it's a very scary card. Next, Maid Leader. We're all familiar with this. If you've been playing Sword for a while, we play this as a 3 of. For 2, it evos into the Evo form, which we play as a 2 of. We get to search our deck for any follower that evolves. There are a lot of very powerful evolve followers in this list, so we're always going to be playing this. One of them being, you know, the prodigal child of Swordcraft, which is Fencer. We play 3 of Quickblader. This is an okay turn 1 play, but what makes this card really good is later on, once we develop Banner from Leonidas, we can just like drop 2 of these out of our hand very easily to start swinging in for 4 face damage per Quickblader we've played. Otherwise, we do play a 1 of the Evo, because I do believe, and this time around, just having the Quickblader Evo to have it as an option is very powerful overall. 3 of Swordsman. This card is in here because it helps us out specific things and scenarios we might catch ourselves in. One of them being that an unengaged Soul Dealer on 4 is really hard for us to deal with, because we don't really have a lot of spells that can just target it and do 5 damage, at least in this list. So Swordsman is a good way to play this, force it into engage, and you can be able to trade some of your followers in it to make sure you don't eat that 7 damage next turn. This is also used in combination with Leonidas, so if our opponent tries to do like some fishy stuff and makes it so we can't run Leonidas in once we evo it, this is a way we can force the engage and have Leonidas run into the follower so we can get our banner out. I play a 3 of Unbridled Fury. I know some people really like Surefire Bullet and stuff like that. I found Unbridled Fury being very good overall. I've really enjoyed this card. There's a lot of times where this card outs, you know, Soul Dealer on 4 as well. It's just been really good for me overall. If you don't like this card, you know, just throw in Surefire Bullet or whatever choice removal you like. This can even be replaced with Amelia if you like. You want to just stay completely follower centric. Though I think Unbridled Fury is very powerful in this list itself. We play Latham. This is like the only good 2-drop for the most part. The other one being like Vanguard Lancer, which is an okay. If you prefer to have a ward to slow down aggression, you can play that in this slot as well, or you can even take out the Unbridled Furies and play it as a 3 of. But Latham is a 3 of. It's pretty solid once Leonidas Banner comes out though, because you know we're swinging in for 6 with Rush. But this on 2 is a pretty good development as well, because it doesn't get removed by most things, or at worst it trades with another 2-cost follower if they're being aggressive and have 3 attack. Otherwise this lives or can value trade through most things. And here we are, the prodigal child of Swordcraft, Fencer. We play this as a 3 of. Obviously you can pay 1 to evo it, giving us Fencer, which summons 2 tokens, Steelclad Knight and a Knight, those being respectively a 2/2 and a 1/1. I mean, what can you say? You get 7/7 worth of stats for 4 play points. Like, what's not to like there? Next, 3 of Gemstaff Commander. We want to search out key pieces in Sword. Sword is like very known for being able to like kind of tutor their deck. So this is a very strong, powerful card. Though, you know, later in the game it doesn't feel as good. But like, you know, developing this on 3 going first doesn't feel horrible. We can search any Swordcraft follower with this. A lot of times you can use it to find your like 1-ofs, like Aurelia here, as your silver bullet for certain matchups, like into Dragon, things like that. Otherwise, you can find pieces you might need later, like Alexander, Leonidas, Albert, all good pieces to grab. Even Advent Blader for the follow-up turn is really good. We play 3 of Novice Trooper. I mean, we're playing Sword. We like Storm. Any followers, we have Storm plus Leonidas' banner. Once it drops, becomes scary. This after Leo drops is a 6/6 with Storm for only 3, which is really good. And it's already like decently on curve for 3. We get 3 Storm damage immediately. I mean, what's not to like? We play a 2 of Albert, 11 Saber. This card is really powerful and really aggressive. We could, like, for example, develop Albert on 4 if we have nothing else better to do. And if they don't remove it immediately, we can evo it into the second form, which we play as a 1 of, and we can get in for another 6 damage or like clear up the board, which is pretty good. But a lot of times you can end up using Albert to combo with the Leo banner to just do 12 damage immediately on evo. 2 face, that is. Advent Blader, 1 of, with a 1 of the evo. Generally, like, if you ever see this card, you always want to be able to evo it. So if you decide to play more of this, you got to figure out how you're going to fit into the evo deck. Personally, I think the only card you could cut technically is probably Bellringer Angel evo, and to be able to fit another Advent Blader into your deck with the evo. But I prefer the Bellringer Angel so far. Advent Blader, a lot of times you find when you play this card, you're going to evo it immediately to be able to search out 2 officers. The most common lines to grab is usually like 2 Novice Troopers, a Novice Trooper and a Maid Leader, Floor Fencer and a Novice Trooper, or Floor Fencer and a Maid Leader, things like that. You can make combinations like that. Sometimes you will get double Novice Trooper just to always threaten that you have 6 Storm damage in hand continuously, which is really scary. You can also get like double Quick Blader to set up a turn for crashing Leonidas in to get its banner, then double Novice Trooper for 8 to face immediately. Play 1 of Aurelia. This card is really good in the dragon matchup and any matchup that goes wide. Generally, it gets pretty big overall, and then I mean, if the banner's out too, you've probably like already won the game anyway. This is a pretty good card in specific matchups. Sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's like great. So like, I only like it as a 1 of, so I can search it out in the matchups I know I really want it. Dark Angel Olivia. We play this as a 3 of. So the one thing that's really powerful about Sword usually is that going second is really, really good for you because you get access to evo points. So you're able to develop a Floor Fencer on 3 and evo it immediately, which is very hard for a lot of people to deal with. But another reason we want evo points early is so we can cheat out Leonidas on 6 and evo it immediately, so we can possibly get the banner one turn earlier. And Olivia enables that because a lot of times with Olivia, you're going to gain an evolution point and do one of the other effects, either draw a card, which is one of the most common, opponent discards a card, or you can heal 3 as well. But the gaining an evolution point on 5, if you're able to do that freely, is really powerful because it adds a lot of like unseen pressure on your opponent, essentially. So what happens is they see the evo point, they make the assumption that a Leo is going to come down next turn, so they're going to start playing around Leo, but you'll have like better follow-ups afterwards, like Alexander or something like that. And if they play around Leo, you can always like on 5 Dark Olivia, like for example, let's make them discard a card and we gain evolution point. On 6, you can actually drop Leonidas Albert and evo him immediately and get 2 free attacks in for 6, which is, I think, is like a line of play worth like considering sometimes, because a lot of times if people are being way too cautious about not giving you the Leonidas banner and doing everything possible to stop you from doing it, sometimes the aggression is just too much for them and they end up fumbling and then they lose the game that way. We play a 3 of Alexander. I think this card is super important to keep as a 3 of because this is a card you don't want to search out. You mostly want to naturally draw into it when you can, because the way that Sword works, you're always searching cards out of your deck, so your opponent always knows what is in your hand. So cards like Alexander that let you clear board, and this is one of the few ways like one card can clear an entire board for Sword, because we don't have access to a lot of like board wipes. This is like one of our only ones right now. So the fact that like if you search this out, then people know to play around it all the time. But if you don't search this out, they kind of have to like guess or make a gamble, like, do I go wide or not, if I do or don't. And sometimes if they just play 2 things, just slamming this on 6 and removing both things and leaving this in the I think it's called reserve position, but the standing position where it's untapped, is very scary for some people. Even this one, even if you like attack 2 things with this and it's like a 5/4, it's still like relatively something people have to be scared of. One thing too that's really interesting is that if a person plays Bellringer Angel after you've already played this onto the board, you can use Alexander to clear the Bellringer Angel and still attack 5 to face because it restands after it does the combat damage. And then finally, this is kind of like the key card of the deck. We have Leonidas, we play two down here, two of the Evo card itself, because it's very important to have this card. You might want to run three if you can figure out a way to do it. Once again, Bellring Angel might be a way to cut it, because a lot of times when you see Leonidas, you want to be able to Evo it every time, because it's like one of the most important parts of the deck. But I've been really happy as running as a 3-2 split so far, and no issues at all. Once again, too, we played as a 3-of because this is a card we need to see. If we don't have to search it too, maybe our opponent mistakenly thinks we don't have it because we haven't searched one out yet, and then they end up falling to the trap of giving us the banner. So this has on evolve, select an enemy follower, and you deal 5 damage to it and this follower, and sometimes you think that's really bad for yourself because you're now dealing 5 damage to your own follower. But this, not only does this remove something even if it's not engaged, this hurts itself, so you can crash it immediately to get the Leonidas Resolve token, which is the banner basically. And if you read down here, it's whenever a Swordcraft follower is put into your field, give it +3/+3 and rush. So the +3/+3 is insane. Usually if a banner gets put onto the board and it stays for more than one turn, your opponent has probably lost the game at that point, because you've either already set up for the OTK next turn. If banner's still there, they feel pressured to remove the banner, they're forced to play use 4 play points to execute the banner, so they can't have like a really good optimal turn after executing the banner unless they've had a way to like deal with it on your own turn essentially. So Leonidas is kind of like the quote-unquote win condition, though the deck a lot of times can easily win without resolving Leonidas' banner onto the board. It's just the pressure of them having to balance between playing around Leonidas or like dealing with your storm damage, one or the other. It's very hard for people to always deal with perfectly. But yeah, so that's the list. I really have been enjoying this list overall. It's been a lot of fun. I think it adds a lot of pressure. Dark Angel Olivia kind of negates your issues with like not going second, because a lot of times your opponent, if they win the die roll, they will take second and give you first. But if you're playing Dark Angel Olivia, you kind of mitigate the negativity, I guess the negative drawbacks of going first in this deck, just because you can do things like Leonidas on 6 or even Albert Evo on 6, which people don't always anticipate happening, because a lot of times too, people believe you're going to hold Albert just to finish the game after Leonidas' banner hits the board. Once that comes down, that people expect this. Sometimes just dropping Albert Evo like on turn 6 and hitting 6 face or clearing things is like very powerful and unexpected move all the time, because people think you're always trying to hold this. And like I said, the 6 face damage puts a lot of pressure on your opponent immediately after that turn. So not only do they have to deal with Albert, because they can't let this attack again because it still gets attacked twice per turn, they also have to deal with anything else on your board. So doing things like Dark Angel Olivia on 5 getting the evolution point, and they don't remove Dark Angel Olivia. Dark Angel Olivia with the Evo point on 5 doesn't get removed into Albert Evo is 11 face damage if there's no wards up for them to deal with. That's a lot of damage on turn 6 that could just end the game because your opponent mistakenly misread the situation after you played Dark Angel Olivia. I think Dark Angel Olivia is like one of the key cards that makes Sword very powerful in this set. I do think you can play a version of the deck that doesn't play Dark Angel Olivia, but if you play those versions of the deck, you're going to play something where it's a lot more searching and keeping your hand size at 7 all game, unlike this build. This build can keep a decent amount of hand size, but it does struggle to like constantly make wide boards over and over and over again, unlike other builds that play, for example, like Pompous Princess and Gunner Maid Sarah. Those cards can just like constantly chain into other cards over and over and over again, even though those followers are a little weaker compared to some of your late game followers. The fact that you go very wide is something not all crafts can really deal with efficiently over and over again, and so you can overwhelm your opponent that way. Personally, I think that style of play is really cool, but I kind of prefer this instead. I kind of like this more mid-range stuff where I have like, you know, a bunch of different options on turn 6. Turn 6 is like the big playmaker turn. That's when you go off and like, you know, hopefully close out the game from there. Besides that, I hope you guys like this video. Like, comment, subscribe as always, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Later, everyone.